welcome to a new episode of Live the African Dream. My name is Eunice Ajim and I'm your host. Today we have yet another founder series with Abraham Ojes. He's one of Ajim Capital's portfolio companies. Abraham Ojes is the founder of Collect Africa. Collect Africa enables businesses to add local payment methods to their websites or apps through a single API. He was also the founder of Zend Mobility, a delivery sharing service prior to launching Collect Africa. Abraham, it is so great to have you today on the podcast.
Thanks so much, Eunice. I'm really honored to be here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today. I would love for you, in your own words, just give us a quick background about yourself. I like to say a better way of saying is like tell a little bit about your story, how you got where you are today.
Awesome. So my name, better pronounced, is Abraham Ojes. From Nigeria, from Edo State, and it's by myself. I studied food science and technology in school. I had nothing to do with computer science or anything with tech. So after school, while in school, I used to study a lot about online marketing. And then after school, I got my first job working for an online marketing agency called Pulse. Worked for Pulse for about 2 years. Then I discovered product management, and I really wanted to be a product manager. I attended some courses and decided to apply for some jobs. Then, in the midst of applying for jobs as a product manager, I discovered something unique, something about the Nigerian delivery space. I discovered the businesses needed, able to deliver goods. Prior to when I invented or when I founded Zend Mobility, businesses relied on the likes of DHL, mostly in Lagos, relied on the likes of DHL and UPS to deliver, and other very small shops. Then the likes of Gokara, the likes of Max were not really focused on delivery for businesses. So there was this day I was on the Third Mainland Bridge. The Third Mainland Bridge is like the longest bridge in West Africa. And I discovered we're in traffic on that day, and I was just looking around, and there were so many vehicles, so many cars, and I said to myself, I'm very sure the trunk or the boots of this car are empty. So what will it take to actually get these guys to put stuff in their car and deliver for businesses? And that was how the idea came about, of building a network where we could have third-party logistic personnel or third-party logistic drivers put up their vehicle or excess capacity on this network, and these businesses can also come on this network like a two-sided network, and these businesses can find them, employ them to help them deliver their goods, right? So I did that for some time. I would like to appreciate Twitter. Twitter really helped, right? So after developing the app, yeah, I went on Twitter, and there's this tweet where I talked about my co-founder then and what we've done, and I said Twitter, do your thing, and yeah, people started retweeting. We got some downloads, right? And some VCs reach out like, oh, we like what you're building. What's the idea? What's the concept behind this? So that was my first. That was how I, learned what it means to be a product manager. I have a growth background from online marketing. Working for doing paid marketing for a lot of big businesses. I already have that background, and I know how to use social media tools. I have to use those platforms well. But when it comes to product management, when it comes to marketplaces, I had no idea about marketplaces. I was just learning on the job. And I would say part of the reasons why I couldn't really execute Zend the way I would have wanted to was part to my inexperience about two-sided marketplaces. At first, we wanted to outsource the entire demand supply side to third-party vendors. Then I had not read a lot about how Uber started, how Uber seeded the marketplace by making sure they paid vehicles to stay on the network. right? So we did that, didn't really work. So we just, give it all our third party vendors. We had issues with reliability. Businesses would come online to request for delivery vehicles, and they won't see anyone online. There'll be no cars, no bikes, nothing. So we had a lot of churn. Yeah, a lot of things we didn't even understand, and we couldn't really scale. Yeah, so we had to give it up. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I started Zend, and prior to founding Collect.
I'm actually curious. So like while we're on this topic, so you did Zen, like how long was Zen Mobility? Like did you raise any funding? Was it more like, okay, this is not working out, like let's just shut it down?
The only, yeah, the only, like I would say, cash I got was from a former boss of mine who really believed in what I was doing, and at that time he gave me something equivalent to $1,000, right? To just, to just, like it was like, yeah, I know it's going to be hard, just manage this and see what you can achieve. Yeah, so it was really hard. So yeah.
No, and I love what you mentioned because there are actually a lot of founders today, right, that wants to build the Uber or like the Airbnb or like the dates, for the African continent. But what they end
Yeah.
up realizing that like a lot of cities on the continent comes with their own challenges, right? When it comes
Hmm.
to delivery, when it comes to marketplaces, when it comes to having the buyer and the seller, like it takes a different kind of economics to be able to sustain
Yeah.
both sides of the
Yeah.
marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah. If I were given the chance to build something again in marketplaces, I think I'll be more equipped. When I see people come to me for advice about building marketplaces, mostly two-side marketplaces, for example, there's this trend of um, people trying to build food delivery apps here in Lagos, Nigeria, and they kind of ask for advice. I'm honestly like, make sure your supply side is, make sure you solve that from day one, please. Invest, if possible, invest your own money, buy like your first 50 to 100 bikes before, outsourcing to parties. That's the first thing you should do, right? Always make sure building a two-side marketplace, ensure you seed one part of the marketplace. Do not just believe everybody will come to your network, at once. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do have experience because both my tech startups were marketplaces. One from a B2C
Wow.
standpoint, and then the other one from a B2B. And I know the challenges of like trying to like attract the supply, but while also making sure that the demand is there, and then like you're balancing as you're growing. Because if you also bring too much, actually, I don't think you ever have too much of the supply. Because at the end of the day, like they have nothing to lose. It's just an extra source of income, and obviously like if you're
True.
bringing that extra source of income, they'll tell their friends, and then that's how your marketplace will grow naturally. But that is the hardest part because you don't ever want the buyer to come on your marketplace and the seller is not there. So
True. 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 You don't want that.
but yeah,
True.
I completely understand. I think what I would like to know is like what was the determining factor? Because I think it's very easy for everybody, and obviously we're going to speak about Collect Africa in a little bit, but it's so easy, right, for founders to always share the success stories. My companies have failed too. Like my first startup failed, I closed it. I actually am a
Yeah.
big believer in second time founders because you've learned, right? Like you have failed, you've accepted, right, that
Yeah.
failure was a thing, and I decided to make a decision to close the company and move on to the next thing. It takes a different kind of gut to say, hey, I built this, it didn't work out, like let me move to the next thing. What was that
True.
determining factor for you, and how did you make that decision?
For us, it was that point where I knew. It was in 2019, no, early 2020, when the Lagos government issued a policy prohibiting, motorcycle taxis. So the likes of Gokada and Max and other, players were not allowed to use motorcycles for taxis anymore. And so the next thing was deliveries. They were coming to my space and they had so much supply. So I knew this was time to just close down and go do something else. All right. So the policy was that point too, and also the fact that we knew we didn't really have the resources, we didn't have the money to actually, fight them out. So it was the likes of OPA that had so much money, the likes of Okada that were well funded, coming to that space, right? So at that time it made a lot of sense to just close shop and go do something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pick,
That's
pick
awesome.
your battles, they say.
Yes. Okay. So let's speak a little bit more about Collect Africa. In your, like, let's say you were pitching an investor, you were
Yeah.
pitching a customer right now. How did the idea of Collect Africa, come about, and what does Collect Africa do?
Awesome. So before I founded Collect, that is after closing Zend, I worked briefly on a very small project called Sire. Sire was supposed to help African retailers access credit on credit to get inventory for their businesses. And at that point, we were trying to build out a lot of solutions for these businesses. And one of the major problems when trying to assess a business viability to get credit was the fact that most of these businesses don't have any kind of digital records, right? They're mostly cash based. All their transactions are cash based. All their kind of records are on paper, and so we knew this was going to be difficult. Apart from other challenges we faced, where I started Sire, we just wanted to find a way to digitize these businesses. So along the way, we discovered Collect, right? So the name Collect came about when from Sire, right? So most of the investors or the creditors were approaching them and would say something. If I lend to this business, how do I collect my money? How do I collect my money? Right. So, so
That is
it
super
kept,
interesting.
so it became a recurring term, and we said, okay, collect folks. So collect your money. So okay, how do I collect your money? So we tried to name it collect, right? So collect today did not start from like helping business accept payment, right? We went first to the direct debit. We went to solve that problem of helping these creditors or suppliers collect money from the retailers. So we went to solve for direct debit. That did not work because honestly, direct debit or open banking in Nigeria, I would say it's not really where it is, where it should be today. Kudos to the startups like Okra, Mono, working endlessly, trying to make sure it works, but it isn't where it's supposed to be. So we had to pivot to something else. And pivoting came when one day I walked to a popular pizza. I won't mention names. I walked to a popular pizza shop very close to me, and I went to get pizza. And I only had my card, right? And the POS terminal wasn't working, right? And I had no cash with me, but I could do bank transfer, right? And I was on the queue, and when it was my turn, right? And the lady asked, how will you be paying? I said cash. She was like, oh, sorry, the PS terminal wasn't working. So I said, oh, I don't have cash, but I can get bank transfer. Oh, we don't accept bank transfers. I was like, I don't understand. I want to accept bank transfer. And, I was stranded. It was 8:30 p.m. and we were closing by 9. I was stranded. Like, it was just crazy. Like, I had so much money in my account, but I could not pay. And I shared it with my friends, and they could relate. Like they've been to places where there was, payments, there was payments failure. Either the card wasn't working or something wasn't working, and they didn't have cash, and it was difficult to pay. Right. So we knew there was this big problem with payments, right? That had to be solved. So we decided to do a lot of research, asking a lot of merchants questions about how many times do you have to, reject a particular payment method? How many times do you have to lose a sale because you can't accept the way this particular customer wants to pay, be it bank transfer or be it cards? And we found that a lot of similarities among these merchants. Some would say, "Oh, I don't have a PS terminal, so if you're trying to pay with your card, I can't accept your payment." Oh, you want to pay with bank transfer? No, I don't accept the payment. I can't accept bank transfer because I don't know if it's real or I don't know when I will get notification. So it doesn't just work for me. So yeah, it's just a lot of problems to solve, very interesting problems to solve. And going back to the issues we had at Saya, most of the businesses we're trying to solve, we're trying to solve these problems for. I had no records. So it was an opportunity to actually create digital records, create a platform where we could actually digitize these businesses, starting out with payments. So for Colette, we started out with payments as our wedge, but trying to help these businesses access payments both online and offline. Online, with a payment link, you can easily create a payment link, send that to your businesses, to your business or a customer, right? They click on the payment link, yeah, they can now see multiple payment methods, bank transfer, cards, wallets that they could easily pay you with, or offline bank transfer or POS terminals. So we started out, going to a lot of retail shops, talking to the business owners, trying to get them to start accepting payments with bank transfer and POS terminals. And that was how Collect started.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. I think that, and I love that you were like, and it's crazy to even think about that because when you think of Lagos, Nigeria, for example, you think advanced, you think fintech, you think payments everywhere. And to hear that there's still some businesses out there that are facing some of these challenges is unthinkable. I think and I'll play a little bit of the devil advocate here. Coming back to my point about being a lot of fintech companies out there, a lot of payment. I mean, I see deals on a daily basis. I see a lot of payments, banking the unbanked, helping SMEs, being capable of either digitizing their work. What do you think make Collect Africa stand out from all the other fintechs or all the other payments providers out there for SMEs?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's something we hear a lot, get a lot from investors, saying how are you different. First off, I'd like to talk about the opportunity on ground. Is that currently cash is king in Nigeria, meaning 90% of transactions are mostly done in cash, and it's really a very, very big market. So I really like to appreciate other startups that are actually building in the space, trying to digitize businesses or trying to move businesses from being, paper-based to a more digital world. For Collect, we see payments as a wedge towards building other tools for businesses. So for us, it's more of a data play where we are using payment data to understand how these businesses are generally wired. Also using that data to build, help them access other tools. For example, today with Collect, we were able to see how merchants were using, our platform to do a lot of expense or spend, and we tried to build a spend management tool on top of, based on that information. And I was talking to a very big credit company last week, and so we have terminals with businesses, and they were very curious to know how we could share that data with them and say, oh, can I access like your POS data and see how a merchant is using the POS? Like I can use that data to understand, their volumes and also lend against that particular, data, right? So it's really interesting how, right, we are kind of building an open banking infrastructure. I was doing open banking or open payment infrastructure rather instead of banking, an open
Yeah.
payment infrastructure on Collect, right? By simply solving a very basic problem, which is payments for these businesses, and using with that we are exposing these businesses to solutions that they never really imagined could happen, right? It was really interesting, right? And the terms for such, for example, the credit I was speaking to, or the credit company I was speaking to last week, wanted to see, okay, can you tell me how frequent this particular business accepts or receives payment on this terminal? What is the minimum ticket size, right? So these factors or these parameters can be used to create, a kind of tailored, credit package for these businesses. These were things that we could not imagine before happening. So democratizing this data, meaning for us it meant we have to solve payments for. We have to make it possible for payments to be solved one way or the other. So the future for Collect, and there are a lot of people in this space, there are a lot of big businesses in this space, but the future of Collect is being a data first platform, being able to make sense of this data and build tools, both in-house and with collaboration with other third-party providers to help fully digitize these businesses.
No, I love it. I love it. Okay, so we're going to take a step back away from Collect African. We're just going to speak about you as a founder.
Okay.
I think it's easy to rave and speak a lot about our baby. You know what I mean? Like you would defend your baby any day, anytime soon,
Sure,
no matter
sure.
what, as a founder. But again, there's so many things happening right now. The current market is crazy. The fundraising market has gone down. Now things have just become a little bit hard to raise money. Collect Africa has definitely been able to convince quite a good amount of VCs and angels to
Mhm.
believe in your vision. What would you say has been the most challenging in your founder's journey so far?
Um, what's like things I would say have been very challenging for me is the fact that a lot of businesses have, mostly for early stage companies like ours, they have these patterns to which they don't care about what you're talking about, they don't care about your idea, they just care about these patterns, these set of patterns like, oh, did you work for, X payments company, are you X this, are you X that, are you X Uber, or X Amazon, or X Microsoft? And they don't really care about if you're just so it's really important, right? Where your background and you know um, where you're from, right? So it's one thing we've seen, and also demographic too. You're an African founder trying to build for a better Africa or build for a better world, and just because you're Africa and you're African and you are not, and yeah, it's they don't really want to talk to you or and so most African founders will have to, after they travel, leave Nigeria, go to the US, go to the UK to actually meet with these guys to convince them that I'm real, like I'm actually real. This is me, the person, right? So it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of time that founders could use to could be building their products, right? But instead you spend so much time trying to convince people that this idea would work. Uh, Instead of actually building. So these are challenges I've seen so far as an African founder, and I really hope that in the future, though things are changing very well, things are changing like at a very fast pace. We have seen people actually raising bigger rounds, amazing rounds, and with very very minimal effort, unlike before. So yeah, I'm really hoping things will be very different. The whole funding uh, markets would really change.
Yeah.
Maybe not be as before, but would be more favorable again for businesses.
Yeah. No, definitely. And what has been your experience working with local? And when I mean local, it doesn't always have to be Nigeria, just like local African VCs versus VCs in the US. Do US VCs have more favorite terms? Do they have more hash terms? Is the due diligence faster? Like, what has been your experience for any founder out there that is considering fundraising, either from US or from UK or from like local African VCs?
From my own experience, working with local businesses, they generally will do more due diligence on you. So it's would likely be a problem that they also relates to, right? So, for example, if I was speaking to you and I was telling you that payment is solved in Nigeria, we could actually, right? So if you, as a VC, if you believe that, then it's on you because you can actually go out there and verify, and ask or go to a shop and try to pay and see if it actually works, right? So they will likely do more diligence when it's a local VC than when it's so for foreign VCs in the US or wherever. Um, Most likely would rely on having to um, benchmark you against one other startup in the space, a similar startup in the space, or talking to another colleague who has invested in a similar company, more like third party, verification or due diligence systems, or like first party when you're working with the local VC who would actually want to come follow. Like I've had, instances where I had to take a VC to my customer and say, this is my customer. So it was the VC that being the customer and asking the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is actually very common, right? Where like they
yeah,
want to better understand like what was the customer's problem, why did they pick you,
yeah,
versus like or like any other provider out there, like what has been their experience. But that's so
yeah.
funny,
So,
but
so
true.
we've had that, and this is only possible when it's a local VC compared to, yeah.
Yeah, compared to abroad. Okay, that makes sense. Awesome, awesome. So yes, there are definitely challenges, but there are also success stories. Like there are reasons why you wake up every single day, and you go to work. It's because you want to see something happen into this world. I always love to end this podcast by asking, what is your African dream? And when I say this, it's not because you're just dreaming. You're actually working every single day, to make sure that this thing happens. If you were to just define what that African dream would look like, in a few words, what would that be?
For me, so I'll say I'm still dreaming, right? I think my dream is like fully formed yet, right? Well, what I would really want to happen today is more united Africa, where the economies are more integrated, and it's easier for um, you know I'll say African entities to scale across Africa at once. It's currently very difficult at the moment to just go from Nigeria to the next country to the next country to the next country. Uh, it might be easier in West Africa because we have ECOWAS, we have a unified states. But for other African countries, it's not really easy. Um, Also, the payments rails in Africa are really segmented. I mean fragmented rather. So we have PAPS by the African Union that's rolling out. I don't really know where PAPS is at the moment. But I think those are things that really solve, that core infrastructure gap that we have across Africa. So with a payment rails like PAPS, it will be easier to build payment solutions that could potentially be useful in multiple African countries at the same time. So this means that collect can easily scale to a lot of African countries at once, instead of having to do it, so regulations is also one thing that would also make a lot of sense. Unified regulations across Africa for payments or for fintechs would really make sense. Today, it's very, very hard to get, permission to get some kind of licenses or certifications, to operate in some African countries. To what we do most times is to partner with an existing player down there, which isn't what you would typically or ideally want to happen. So there's so many things my ideal that would make my African dream come true. Um, but right now, those things don't exist. So I'm dreaming. I keep on dreaming. I keep on working hard, to make sure these things happen. Also soliciting for people interested in making Africa a better place. Africa is really somewhere you really love. You visit Africa, somewhere you really love, and you want to make Africa a better place. They want to support amazing builders, people who truly want to make Africa better.
No, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us and also for sharing a lot more about Collect Africa. If you're an
Thank you.
SME currently in Nigeria, and you're still struggling with your payments and collecting money from your customers, you should definitely be checking out Collect Africa after this
Thank
podcast.
you. Thank you.
Abraham, it was so great to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you,
It is
Eunice. Thank you, Eunice.
always a pleasure to speak to you. You can find Abraham, I believe, on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And you
So,
can check out their website for more information. This was Live the African Dream, and until next time, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.